Soy Melina Vicario, la biohacker. Estoy en Deerfield, Miami. Hoy tengo el placer de entrevistar a alguien a quien admiro mucho, sabe una barbaridad. Su nombre es Brian Richards. Él es un biohacker top y además es el creador de Sauna Space. Ya le vamos a contar más. Pero es de las personas que conocí en todo el mundo quien más sabe y mejor explica, y esto es muy importante, sobre IMF, sobre campos electromagnéticos, nativos y no nativos. Esta entrevista va a estar acompañada por un bello sonido de la lluvia. Brian, thank you so much for being today with us.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So, Brian, in a very simple way, let's talk about what is EMF and what's the difference between native and non-native EMF. Let's think that many people have never heard about EMF. They don't know what it is, EMF.
Yeah, EMF stands for electromagnetic field or electromagnetic force, fuerza electromagnética. It's a integral part of our world around us and our reality. It doesn't just permeate and exist in our environment. It is our environment. It is us. It's inside of us. Everything at the most fundamental, quantum mechanical, most basic level is electromagnetic. So it's kind of incorrect to think that we're biomechanical, that we're cells and we have blood and we have biochemistry. Fundamentally, we are electromagnetic. We're bioelectric. We're beings of light. And light is also a form of EMF. So it turns out that not all EMF is the same. Some EMF, or the good EMF, generally speaking, by which I mean the EMF that's beneficial to our health, that's good, that makes us feel good, that heals us, that keeps us happy, is native EMF, natural EMF. EMF that already existed in our environment for millions or thousands of years. The sun is a full spectrum light source emitting all these different electromagnetic frequencies at the same time that we call the solar radiation. The earth has a very special frequency called the Schumann frequency. It's about 7.83 hertz. So the planet that we live on and we grow on is vibrating. And we're vibrating, and our cells are vibrating, and our protons and our electrons and our DNA and our blood, everything is vibrating at different frequencies. So it's a fundamental aspect of our lives. And because it is, it's important to understand potentially what effect an artificial EMF could have. And what we see from the research now is that, wow, actually the man-made EMF, also called non-native EMF, is damaging to our health, generally speaking. And let's give some examples. So examples of artificial EMF include cell phone signal, electricity, television signal, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, handheld radios, and there are even other forces of electromagnetic fields, the transformers we have, the power lines, basically all our modern technology has an artificial man-made EMF component. And since it's around us every day and we're constantly around it and interacting with it, it's affecting us. And we find it's affecting us adversely. To keep it really simple, it stresses us out. It's a stress. So not all stress is bad. Sauna stress is good. The stress of the light of the sun is good. Hormetic stress is good. But basically, stress coming from man-made devices is pretty much all bad. It's something that we choose to have for convenience and for fun and for quality of life, but we must understand that it has a very problematic side effect.
It has a big cost. All the benefits that we get have a big cost. So you're saying that we are electromagnetic beings and that everything around us vibrates and has frequencies, but not in a mystical way, like in a technical, scientific way.
Yeah, in physics it's called string theory. And you can measure these frequencies with modern technology. So the Earth has a frequency The blood has a frequency. Plants have frequencies. Herbs, everything that's alive has a frequency. When you kill something, it stops vibrating. So the best, most beneficial food is the most healthy, fresh food, which has the highest frequency. And things like essential oils, very potent, like superfoods, have very high, powerful frequencies. So it's supporting this idea that there's frequencies all around us, and we need to understand it. So we can measure this, and we can measure it inside our bodies. So, for example, the blood-brain barrier. The brain keeps toxins from the blood from getting into the brain by a barrier that's actually a voltage gate. So it opens and closes based on voltage, which is a problem if you have Roundup in your body, because Roundup can surround glyphosate. It's a very widely used pesticide, very damaging to our health. It can surround aluminum and neutralize the negative charge. And so then the aluminum can get through the blood-brain barrier because it's tricking the voltage gate. The blood, for example, another example, the blood does not flow down the arteries with a mechanical force. The primary force is electromagnetic force. It's a voltage gradient. It's going from high voltage to low voltage. One of the most fundamental cell signaling things in your body are called calcium signaling. It's a very ancient, billion-year-old evolutionary system for the cells to talk to each other and to talk to themselves. It's called calcium signaling. And those all go through voltage-gated ion channels. So the voltage-gated ion channels are susceptible to EMF. And so the cell phone signal, for example, in the air can unnaturally open the voltage gate and cause calcium to flood into the cell. And that's one of the mechanisms of apoptosis, cell death. When the cell wants to kill itself because it's damaged or it's diseased, it floods the inside of the cell with calcium, millions of calcium per second, and they make the mitochondria overwork, and it produces too much reactive oxygen species, and it causes a pathway of cell death. So it's absolutely stressful on our bodies, and we've seen through modern observation, this is what the cell phone signal does. It absolutely does it. It absolutely has a biological effect. The real question is it associated with disease? And more and more the research is showing that yes, it very possibly could be. There are now implications with cancer, with heart disease. The heart is electric, right? People use pacemakers if their heart doesn't work right. That's because there's an electrical signal that's making the heart beat and keeping your heart beating, in a natural rhythm. So another example of how the body has an electrical basis to it. So now that we understand we have electrical systems, our bodies are controlled by electrical systems. Our brains are wavelengths that are like 4 to 30 hertz or so, very low frequency.
The brain waves.
The brain waves.
Yes, alpha, theta, gamma.
Yeah, those are all very low frequency, below 30 hertz. So these are another example. Again, our bodies are electromagnetic, and so of course the man-made electric fields are going to affect us. Of course. And it turns out, again, that they primarily have a stressful effect that we want to try to avoid if possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And what you're saying, so all this electrical contamination that we are living in this modern world, it has different components, right? So, for example, the first component would be wired electricity.
Yeah.
Correct?
And think historically. Originally, there was no cell phone. There was no radio. The very first thing was electricity. In the late 1800s, electricity was being developed and kind of invented collaboratively by many people. Many famous scientists worked on it. In 1887, the incandescent light bulb was invented. The first man-made light powered by electricity, which seems so magical, and it is. And it's engendered this wonderful world we have now, where we have all these devices that are powered by electricity that improve our quality of life. But as soon as we introduce electricity, We introduced that stressful component into our lives, and it's with us now pretty much forever. And it also changed our habits. Now when you have artificial light you can make with electricity, you can stay up late. And so we become dissociated from our daily relationship with sunlight, which has other bad effects for our health. And it's kind of like a domino effect. And so that wasn't so bad, right? But then they came out with wireless electric fields. First, television signal. And then they came out with, and radio waves. And then they started introducing every decade in the 20th century higher and higher frequency wireless EMF, to where you get eventually microwave EMF.
So this is the second way in which we get pollution, that later in this interview you will measure it, because you have ways to see, actually to see. He just showed me and I am astonished. But wait, we will see and then we will share the solutions.
Yeah, definitely. Two main classes of EMF. One is wired EMF, electricity. Any electrical device that uses electrical power. The second big category is wireless EMF in the air. All of the wireless data, cell phone, radio, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and now 5G that's coming, which is more frequencies at higher frequencies and increasing of 4G frequencies. So it's not like 5G replaces 4G cell phone technology, it adds on. It's just more and more and more and more high frequencies. So we don't even know what the effects will be yet, but we can assume not good.
Oh my God. And then we have another factor, right? That is the flicker.
Yeah.
We're just starting to talk about this contamination.
Yeah, we're talking about EMF, and we're essentially referring to things that are artificial that we didn't evolve with. So if it didn't exist with us 1,000 years ago, it's probably not good for our health necessarily.
And we are not adapted to it, right? Our bodies.
And we're not adapted to it. So it's so easy for the modern human is arrogant. We assume we're disassociated from nature. We have conquered nature. It is now ours to do what we will with it. But it's not true. Our biology wants everything the way it was 1,000 years ago. Before all this modern technology, and really from a diet perspective, before agriculture. So much has changed, but biologically speaking, our bodies are 20,000 years old. And so if we keep this in mind, we start to understand, that's why our health is so bad, amongst other things. The more and more we get away from our natural environment. And today with modern EMF, electricity, cell phone, all this, it's almost impossible to escape this artificial stress influence of EMF.
Yes. Oh my God. So what about the flicker?
So I got distracted. So the flicker is another aspect that's not the EMF. It's this concept of pulsing light. The light from the sun and the light of nature is constant. It's not pulsing. It's a direct current source. So the sun is always constantly beaming at us and giving us this light. The campfire is basically constantly giving us light. In fact, the only example maybe of pulsing light in ancestral human environment is if you're in the jungle at night, running really fast through the jungle, and the starlight would kind of be flickering through the leaves of the trees.
Yes.
But after dark, typically when the stars came out, we were sleeping in a cave. So ancestral humans didn't have any pulsing light. So pulsing light is like a strobe light, like at a party, like a disco ball light.
Yes.
And so modern LED lights and modern fluorescent lights are modern disco balls that are strobing light at us, and it has a really stressful effect. It's just like someone who has epilepsy.
Yes.
It's like that. We are all the same. We can handle it a little better than someone who is epileptic. But our bodies interpret pulsing light as this environmental attack, an environmental stress. And it puts us into fight or flight state. It puts us into a stressful state. And all the modern lighting has this all the time.
But our conscious eyes, our conscious mind cannot see. We think that the light in our house, the light at the office, that the light at the airport, at the shopping mall, it's stable, but it is not stable, and our biology catches that there is a flicker and is constantly adjusting, correct?
When your body sees the flickering light from the LED, it thinks it's under attack from the environment, the bear.
Yes.
And so your body responds as if there's a stress in the environment. You get all stressed out. And so imagine living 24 hours a day into that stress. The body's not designed to be so stressed out all the time. It needs to relax. It needs to be in rest and digest state, nervously. Yes. And all these things in the modern environment, blue only LED light, flickering light, EMF, they all keep us in this stressed out, excited state all the time, which leads to disease and ill health.
Yeah, and so before you show us the measuring with the machines that you have, there's another issue, that is the difference between red light and blue light and the ratios.
Yeah, boy, that's a big issue. Let's try to keep it really simple.
Yes.
The sun is a full spectrum emission that includes ultraviolet light, which is ionizing radiation. It damages your DNA. Then blue light, which is not ionizing but still very high energy killer light. It causes free radical formation. In a different way, it causes DNA damage as well. And then you have visible light, and red light is at the end. And then you have near infrared. And so from the sun, you have about 15% blue ultraviolet, but the largest portion of light, the largest plurality of the sun's emission is near infrared.
Yes.
43% of the sun is near infrared. Near infrared wavelengths are the only wavelengths that stimulate our mitochondria to heal. So we have this built-in cellular mechanism in every cell of the body, besides red blood cells, that's designed to heal, regenerate, anti-age, reduce inflammation, correct our DNA, all these amazing things. All you have to do is shine near-infrared wavelengths on it. And it makes sense because the biggest chunk of sunlight is this healing, regenerating red near-infrared. And those are the only wavelengths that activate the mitochondria to heal the cell and to do all these wonderful things that we see associated with red light therapy.
This is what we can get at sunrise and at sunset. Is it true?
You can get it all day from the sun.
All day.
The problem is you also get ultraviolet and blue from the sun, which does have a beneficial effect. Blue light helps build melatonin in the pineal gland, so that's important for the sleep cycle and helping you have good sleep at night. But keep in mind that with the sun, we got both of them.
Yes.
And so if we were ancestral humans, we'd be up at sunrise, watching the sunrise, getting a big dose of mostly red near infrared.
Yes.
And then we would be out in the sun during the day somewhat. And we'd get a lot of good sun, but we would rest at the peak of the sun because the sun is so powerful, usually. And then what happens at the end of the day? Sunset. Blue light is higher frequency, so it's faster. So it gets to the earth faster from the sun. And it also ends faster. So at the end of the day, blue light, ultraviolet light, stimulus ends, and you still get about 15 minutes of only red near infrared. So the sunset is extremely important to watch because you're getting only the beneficial wavelengths of the sun.
Yes.
And it's the best, most healing, kind of the best of the sun. But at the very least, even if at midday you are out under the sun, you're still getting the regenerative red near infrared at the same time as the blue light that's killing you and the ultraviolet. Compare that to modern indoor lighting. LED lights are only blue light and in an inordinately large amount. And there is no red and there is no near infrared. So with modern light technology, we've removed the healthy component. And we've only kept the blue light component for this, to see, to use for work and to do things. But the old school original bulb, the original light source is the incandescent bulb. And it actually has a lot of benefit to it. And it's in those wavelengths that we don't see. And those are near infrared. But nobody has incandescent bulbs anymore. Everybody switched to LED. So we're indoors all day long. We don't get any near infrared from the sun because we're not in the sun anymore. We're working in front of the computer all day. And so we've removed the good stuff and we've added in a lot more of the bad blue. So all day long we're under blue only LED light in front of blue LED screens. We watch TV that's blue only light after dark. And to aggravate it again even more, we're not under the sun getting any near infrared at all. And even if we are, we're usually clothed. Where ancestral humans were primarily naked because they were photobiomodulating. And that's because they understood we're bioelectric. We're light eaters. We eat light.
We eat
Like plants. We eat light for health. And we need it. It's not just a part of our environment. It's the ultimate nutrifying force. The sun nourishes all life on Earth, and the ultimate nutrient is light. And an interesting fact, if you get lots of near infrared, one of the effects in your mitochondria is it increases cellular metabolism. It gives you energy without sugar. So the sun, the near infrared light from the sun can in part satisfy your daily caloric requirement because it's
God.
Food.
Wow. Wow. This is the light diet that you were
This is
mentioning.
the light diet.
What? We will do at least one full video on the light diet because this is so awesome. So I know how you must be feeling the same way that I was feeling when I learned about all this. But wait, Brian will show us some ways to measure this electric contamination, but then we are going to learn how to mitigate it because there is a solution, there is a silver lining. So how can we see how?
Yeah, it's not all bad. It's the first thing is awareness. Let's make sure we're aware of what's going on. And then you're right, there are tools. It's not hopeless. There are things that we can do. So today we're not going to measure everything. We're going to measure only wireless radiation, cell phone signal, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, all of the communications in the air. And we're going to do it using 2 meters. One is a very expensive gold-plated sensor meter with a lot of, it's very fancy. But you can also measure it using something that's much more affordable that you can buy online. So first, this is the GeoVitals high field digimeter deal. This measures wireless electric fields from about 200 megahertz or so to about 8 gigahertz, more or less. And so right now it's measuring in the air in this patio. We're in Deerfield Beach, Florida, in the middle of a big city. Lots of cell phone signal, probably 4 or 5, maybe 10 Wi-Fi signals right now, maybe some Bluetooth as well.
Yes.
And so just in the air, it's measuring 500 or more microvolts. And for those of you who are not familiar, microvoltage is a unit of measurement of antenna signal strength. This is what the telecom industry uses to measure the strength of an antenna, of a cell phone antenna. What this is going to do is measure the signal strength of my body. So right now it's just measuring whatever's touching the antenna on the top. When I hold this, see how the signal goes up a lot? Because now it's measuring how much electric field my body's absorbing. My body is much bigger than the tip of this antenna, so we're actually absorbing a lot more than this meter is measuring like this. And so you go ahead and hold it.
So ideally it should be 0.
Yeah.
Ideally, if we go to the middle of the jungle with no antennas, nothing,
this will be close to 0.
and our ancestors, if they touch it, let's suppose it would be 0, right?
Yeah, and there are still some remote areas on Earth where there is no signal, and this would be close to 0.
So, but now, and we're in Deerfield, it's a big city, but not as big as, I don't know, Miami Center, right? It's different as Miami Center or the center in Buenos Aires or in Bogota or a capital or a...
Yeah, but this is very high. So
now It's measuring me.
What, 4 or
Oh,
5,000 microvolts?
4,000 microvolts.
I've measured more than this. In Austin, where they have more 5G and or they have much stronger 4G signal, I've measured 10,000 microvolts. So it's highly variable. If we walked 20 feet that way, it might be lower. And if we get lower to the ground, the signal goes down because the wireless signals are in the air. So the closer to the earth we get, the more protected we are.
This is very interesting. And but I'm thinking, like, back home, I live in the 8th floor. I don't know if I want to know the voltage there, but I remember when I met the Lama, the Venerable Lama Pema Kalsang, the Lama doctor of the Dalai Lama, she would say, I would always stay in a place that is on the ground. I will not stay in the building in the 8th floor, in the 10th floor. No, because the lower you go, the less EMF.
Yeah, especially with the wireless. So
And this one,
and so this will measure the same thing, but we can't measure the influence on the body. But we get a general idea because we can still measure the air. So this is just measuring the signal in the air. This is the Acousticom 2. You can get this online. It's very affordable, and it's a great way to measure what's going on anywhere you go. So this is measuring wireless electric fields from 200 megahertz to 8 gigahertz. And right here we're pretty high. I mean, we're 1 to 2, maybe 3 volts per meter.
oh, it's high.
So that's high, and again, ideally, we'd be at 0. And ancestral humans, before wireless data, before wireless signals, this was all 0. It was just all 0.
But there is some way that I can be in 0 here living in the city.
So you can protect yourself with things called Faraday cages. So you use metal to block electric field signals. And so one way is to be in a building with really thick walls. The thicker the walls, the worse the penetration. A lot of people know that when you go inside a big building, sometimes you don't have good cell phone signal.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, this is so frustrating. I need to get on the Wi-Fi right now so I can do a Wi-Fi call. But that's protecting you. The thick walls are protecting you, not just metal, but concrete as well. Also, how high you are above the earth. The lower you are, the more protected you are from cell phone signal. If you go into a basement, you're even more protected. But certainly on the ground, you're much better than being on the 18th floor.
Yeah.
But ideally, you can build protective areas, rooms that are Faraday cages where you use absorbent materials that absorb EMF, or you can use metal. So a Faraday cage is a 6-sided metal box that doesn't let electric fields in. And they use it in testing laboratories to test electronics. And it's essentially used there to get a clean, noise-free signal, a good measurement. But it also turns out it can protect us from that. So, for example, with my product, my SaunaSpace Faraday sauna, I've devised a stainless steel material that's a fabric that's grounded to the light panel's ground, so that it's basically a barrier that doesn't let wireless radiation in.
Oh my God! So it would be like living like our ancestors, and or in the middle of the jungle, but we can have like at least a safe place in our homes. Correct?
Yeah, and you can do this in your home too. There are different ways to do it. They make carbon-based shielding paints that block cell phone signal, and metal again blocks electric field. So all of the wiring in your house ought to be shielded with metal, which it is in a commercial building, because that's building code. But all the residential homes in America are all unshielded wiring, unfortunately. So there are ways to combat this, but that can get very expensive, unfortunately. And all of this stuff is, and it seems like this is like science fiction. You know, why do we need a Faraday cage? It's something out of a science fiction book.
It looks like this.
But we need it because we have all these crazy amounts of wireless radiation now that are a quotidian part. You know, it's a part of our dia cotidiano. You know,
Yes.
everywhere. It's like all the time,
Everywhere.
wherever you go, and go try to find a place now without cell phone signal. It increasingly doesn't exist. So, where Faraday cages used to be, you know, some kind of like science fiction dream, they're now actually a reality, and more they're going to be needed. And I would say 20 or 30 years from now, Faraday cages will be kind of like a luxury feature of your home, and you'll be
Yes.
able to. Your home will have more value if you have your entire bedroom shielded.
Of course. And you were showing me also that even with the light, even when using the light that you created, we can remove the flicker around us.
Yeah, it's not it's not just any light bulb. It's really only what we use. It's a very high wattage incandescent heat lamp bulb. My company manufactures a very special one called the Thermalite bulb. That's got some additional, you know, it's a little bit therapeutically superior. But in terms of a flickering light effect, if you have a very high wattage incandescent light bulb, even with alternating current, which is the source of all electricity, it's the alternating current that causes the flicker effect. And it makes all LEDs and all fluorescent lights flicker. And in our office, you probably have LED lights that are built in, and you can't change those because you just work there.
Yes.
So what do? You can take something like my Photon product, a very high wattage incandescent bulb, and bring it into that space. And what we see is that you can't measure the flickering light as well or at all. And what we think is the non-flickering photons, the light, the light coming off the high wattage incandescent bulb drowns out and cancels out the flickering photons from the LED light. And so that results in something that you feel more than you see, you know? You feel, it just feels a little better, a little less stressful.
It happens to me. I started trying it 2 nights ago, and my sleep has been better, and my heart rate variability has been increasing so much.
Yeah, it's something we're,
It's
you know,
calming.
one advantage that humans have, you know, our species has, is we're so resilient. Our constitution is so strong. We can take so much beating. We can take so much, and we just keep going on. But that also is a disadvantage, because in some cases we get accustomed to sources of stress, and we get used to it, and then we assume this is just a part of our environment. It's natural, and it's really not. So those of us who work under LED lights all day long are just used to it kind of feeling, you know, yuck. It doesn't feel good, but we assume, that's just a part of the office. I'm in the computer, I'm getting work done, it's stressful, it's bright lights, but we're there to work. But it's not true. It's actually quite stressful for us. And if there's anything we can do to reduce the sympathetic dominant stress effect of it, all the better. So we need the computer, but if we can bring red light and near-infrared light that's not flickering into the space, we're bringing nature inside.
Yes, we're creating the bridge between the nature's wisdom and the unnatural life in the city. This is what we biohackers do, and this is what we want to share.
Yeah, I think it's that's such an important point, Melina. There's a lot of people who are saying, get away from technology, you know, get back into nature. Don't forget to get out of your house and get out. Absolutely true. That's very important. But what about the 8 hours a day that I have to be inside working in front of the computer to make money, to provide food for my family?
Exactly.
What I don't think enough people are saying, and so I'm going to shout it out, is let's bring nature into our indoor environment. And this is such an easy way to do it by using, you know, for example, what I'm manufacturing, what we're doing, the photon light, and other ways as well. You can change. Let's talk about some solutions.
Exactly. This is where I wanted to arrive, because we can create this bridge, and there are many things that, like as Brian said, first thing is awareness. Now we know, okay, we can do things. what we can do, like what can people do till tomorrow in their life, what lifestyle adjustments they can do, like very easy, very clear, like we'll go number 1, number 2, like this.
Yeah, so if you can, number 1, change out your lights where you live the most back to incandescent. Maybe it's in your kitchen because you cook a lot. Maybe it's at your office because you work a lot. If nothing else, in your bedroom, change out those lights. So if you're reading after dark, you're using the light of nature, incandescent light.
Or candles. Candles is
Oh,
good.
candles even better.
Or candles even
or
better.
Or a real fireplace, even
good.
better.
Or real fireplace. Excellent. So, but incandescent
that's the best.
is better than LED.
Yes, because at least you're, to be clear, red incandescent's even better because incandescents do emit blue light.
Yes.
And so if we're doing incandescent light after dark for reading, we kind of want to reduce the amount of blue. So ideally incandescent, even better, red incandescent.
Red incandescent. Good. So this is something that I really love telling people, but you are validating this. When we wake up, that the first light we see is very important.
Yeah. What light do we wake up with if we're out camping? The sunrise. So yes, there's some blue light, but it's actually more red and near infrared than normal throughout the day, and that's part of why it looks red. Sunrise. And so the very first light of the day needs to be the natural light of outside, and never the light of your phone.
Not the phone.
So this is very problematic for people because many people use their phone as their alarm.
Yes.
So here's trick number 2. Don't use your phone as your alarm. Get an old school battery powered alarm, put it next to your nightstand so there's no EMF, and then in the morning it wakes you up with the sound and you open your eyes and the first thing you do is go look out the window.
Excellent. What else? Grounding, right?
Yeah, grounding. So grounding is you need to be barefoot outside in contact with the earth, and that takes 10 or 15 minutes. And what that does is it cleans out the voltage pollution in your body. So grounding yourself with barefoot on the earth has a cleansing effect on the electrical systems of your body. And that's easy to do, right? You can just go outside and do that.
Yes. So, and people who live in the apartment, maybe they can get some plants, get some nature into the apartment.
Yeah, well, it depends on the environment. It really depends on the environment in their house and what's going on there. It's very tricky inside because inside you have electricity. So you have these artificial forces of voltage that are going to want to go to you, and its voltage always goes from high to low. And so it's always going to want to go through you to ground because the electricity wants to go to ground. It wants to go to the earth.
Yes.
It wants to take the easiest path. And if you are there as a human, it's much easier to go through you. And so it prefers to go through you. So you become this conduit for all of these leaky electric fields in your house. Whereas outside, you're away from the electricity. So if you're inside, grounding is not easy. No. For example, you can ground yourself in my Faraday product, or in my Illuminati sauna. It has a built-in grounding mat. But it's problematic in general because most houses don't have shielded wiring, so there's lots of electricity.
Okay.
The best way to ground is to get outside. Get in contact with the earth, bare feet.
Any food that helps to fight EMF? Any kind of eating?
Well, it's interesting. Sauna, using the sauna by 2 different biological pathways reverses the same damaging oxidative stress pathways that EMF causes. So EMF hits the body, opens the calcium ion channels, and you begin to produce all these oxidative stress cycles like free radicals, like carbamate and other things. And they increase the concentration of peroxynitrite, which reduces the concentration of tetrahydrobiopterin, which is BH4. And this is all a bunch of fancy nomenclature, but essentially the EMF causes free radical formation and damage to your DNA in your body, and sauna reverses that system. So you can use sauna therapy to reverse that process and not just protect yourself. It's not really protecting yourself from EMF, you're reversing the damage. And so that's a very powerful way to counteract the effects of EMF stress that you can't avoid. Not to mention, we probably don't have enough time to talk about, the million other benefits of using the sauna.
Yes, and that all cultures in our past, all the wise cultures like the Mayans, the Greeks, everyone had a sauna practice. All of them that we will go through in the next
Yeah,
one. And for food, any food, well, probably local food, natural food, healthy fats, or nothing specific.
Well, I think in general, I think a paleo diet is highly recommended, and it's, again, what we're talking about this entire conversation is getting more, being the concept of naturalism,
Yes.
returning to nature. So we want to trick the body into thinking it's back in 20,000 years ago. So what did humans eat 20,000 years ago? Primarily animals, some foraging foods, some nuts, some things like that. But our primary diet was the animal, and in nose to tail.
Nose to tail.
Nose to tail carnivore.
Local nose to tail carnivore, and with healthy fats. I
And
love
healthy
the
fats.
concept.
And
of
healthy for
fats.
me, healthy fats is animal fats, and
Yes.
some vegetable fats. Olive oil, for example, but not on its own, with animal fat as a part of the diet.
The combination.
The worst thing to eat are anything that's coming in a box, anything that's artificial, and so if it's not fresh, I would just the challenge with diet is you have to start cooking for yourself,
Yes.
and that takes time, and it's so easy to work and eat fast food and go back to work, and the modern lifestyle the modern lifestyle is just very high stress, and it's all geared towards output and productivity and not towards health. Like, for example, blue light is addictive. Blue light is stressful in a good way. You can use blue light to keep yourself awake, right?
Yes.
The blue light of the screen after dark, it keeps you awake all night, and you can work really hard and get a lot of stuff done. That's because it's addictive. But it's addictive in a stressful way, not in a
Yes.
good way.
Yes.
And so another free thing that we can do that's really important for our health is to avoid sources of blue light after dark, if possible.
Yes.
That's TV, phone, LED light,
Yeah. Tablet. Everything.
tablet.
And we are learning how to do this. Get into other kind of activities like meditation, talking to our family, sharing the experiences, doing something else than watching TV or scrolling in social media. And I really love what you say, that what we're doing here as biohackers is to trick our bodies so that they think that we are back in that natural environment. This is amazing. Brian, we will do another one because this is just the beginning. Thank you so much. It is so valuable. We're learning a lot, and we're learning how to solve. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you, Melina.